Hello everyone, and welcome to Spatial Exploits. In today's video, we're going to do a tactical match analysis of Portugal's 5-0 victory over Luxembourg. Now, in this match, Cristiano Ronaldo had his 10th career hat-trick at the international level, and just beyond the goals, it was interesting to see how Luxembourg set themselves up defensively as well as on the offensive attack to kind of mitigate and ward off as much of the heavy offensive pressure from Portugal as they could. But ultimately, given the final scoreline of 5-0, it didn't quite go according to plan for Luc Holtz and Luxembourg. Now, this match was a FIFA World Cup qualifier match for the Qatar World Cup happening next year in 2022, and it was played on Tuesday, October 13th of 2021 in a city called Almancil inside of Portugal. So with Portugal with the home advantage already in hand, Fernando Santos lined up Rui Patricio, the Roma goalkeeper, who has been excellent this season at the club level, and paired him with a central defensive partnership of Pepe and Ruben Dias. For the fullbacks, there was the rising young talent from PSG, Nuno Mendes, at left back and João Cancelo at right back. In the midfield for the 4-3-3 formation, Fernando Santos put in João Palhinha of Sporting Lisbon, and flanking Palhinha was João Moutinho on the left-hand side and Bruno Fernandes on the right-hand side. For the three-man forward line, there was Bernardo Silva from Man City on the right wing, with Andre Silva of Leipzig from the left wing, as well as the star man himself and the team captain Cristiano Ronaldo. For Luxembourg, Luc Holtz fielded out Sinani as the top man in his 4-5-1 formation, with Rodriguez and Till both providing the width while the team was in possession, and the narrow defensive structure when they were out of possession. Inside the three-man midfield, you had Till's twin brother Till on the left-hand side and Martin Pereira, who had a decent game given the circumstances, in the holding midfield role, with Barreiro flanking him on the right-hand side. Defensively, it was Pinto and Jans, the team captain, in the fullback positionings, as well as Chano and Carlson in the central defensive partnership, with Maurice in goal. On the bench for Luxembourg, the following players came into the match as the match progressed, and same thing goes for Portugal. So there were many more players on both benches, but for the sake of simplicity, I've only listed the ones that actually got playing time as the match progressed. Portugal kicked off the first half and the match with Cristiano Ronaldo passing on to Bruno Fernandes, and then Fernandes going all the way back to the defense, and then eventually Portugal in incremental ways working their way up the pitch. As Portugal engaged in a bunch of short passes to move up the field and began playing with the high line that they're known to play in their possession-based system, it became evident the type of defensive structure Luc Holtz and Luxembourg were going to deploy throughout the match. Essentially, it meant when Portugal had possession of the ball, wherever the ball was is exactly the direction that the entire defense for Luxembourg would be shifted over to. So if Pepe passes the ball over to Ruben Dias on the left flank, then the entire defensive structure of Luxembourg would be collected around the left flank. This naturally means a couple of things. With a short pass available to Pepe, he can definitely make the pass over to Ruben Dias. But if Martin Pereira, for instance, in this case, in the opening stages, does not press quickly into Dias and he leaves him a lot of open space, then the caliber of player that Ruben Dias is, he can quickly find the switch pass over to the right flank. So rather than going and passing it slowly back to Pepe and then back to Cancelo and then over to Bernardo Silva, one of the things that Ruben Dias did in the 40th second of the match is he received the ball from Pepe and then immediately sought out Bernardo Silva on the right wing where he was maintaining the width. So he decided to deploy a pass like this off of his right foot. So immediately there's a long pass going through. Pinto and everybody else on Luxembourg is starting to move over to the left flank to go and contain the sudden threat. And Bernardo Silva takes a quick touch with the ball as it's arriving from Dias, and immediately it leads to a bit of a breakdown in the Luxembourg defense, because now he's one-on-one with a defensive player as he heads into the penalty box full steam. Ronaldo also makes a move in this way to provide some support in passing, and immediately with Till going over there and Carlson, if he doesn't cover well enough, and Fernandes goes over here, then that naturally starts to leave room for cutting Portugal players such as Palhinha and also Andre Silva. So the style of play from Portugal, where they possess the ball on one flank and then immediately switch the ball over as quick as possible to the opposite flank, allows them to switch the focal point of the attack. And when they switch the focal point of the attack and the ball ends up in the feet of a talented one-on-one player like Bernardo Silva, who can find that slide roll pass or beat his man on a one-on-one dribble in dangerous areas like the 18-yard box, it starts to build the common themes that we saw throughout the rest of the match. Early in the 10th minute of the match, what has happened is Portugal has gone up by a 1-goal lead, because in the right flank here, through some clever movement from Bernardo Silva here, with some interchanges between João Cancelo and Ronaldo himself, Bernardo Silva is able to cut into the box in this manner and then draw a foul in the 18-yard box. And that's what eventually leads to Ronaldo's penalty kick conversion. Going into the 9:20 mark of the match here, Luxembourg actually, now having allowed the goal in the 8th minute, they are now high up the pitch with a high line, and they're looking to have possession of the ball as they work their way into the attacking third. So in this case, what's taking place is Carlson has passed the ball to Pinto just a few seconds before the 9:20 mark. Pinto takes a look, he sees Bernardo Silva on-rushing him. There's no other good open spaces due to Fernandes' shadow covering for Martins Pereira as well as Barrero. Pinto then goes and passes the ball back to Carlson. Carlson assesses the situation and realizes Chano is basically covered by Ronaldo. There's not a good long passing opportunity to Till. So what Carlson does is with his left foot aims for a pass through to Barrero to see if that opens up anything. But in the process of doing that, Bruno Fernandes is pretty quick to see what's going on here. So he comes in, and as the left-footed pass from Carlson is coming in, Fernandes takes control of the ball and then goes ahead, and there's an open chance on goal. By the 15th minute, Portugal was already in full control of the match. They were holding on to the possession of the ball, and Luxembourg was having a tough time playing the ball out from the back without going through heavy Portugal high pressing, and their defensive structure was not able to cope with the open right flank. So in this situation, after the 2-goal lead, what ends up happening is the following. With Ruben Dias having possession of the ball, he takes a look to see if Moutinho is available, but Moutinho is not, because Barrero's pressing is angled in such a way that the pass to Moutinho is not available. And so what Ruben Dias does is he quickly passes the ball to Palhinha, and Nani, to his credit, does rush Palhinha, but Palhinha is actually quick on his feet. So what he does is, by having dropped in between Pepe and Dias, it allows Mendes to press forward and allows Cancelo to additionally press forward if need be. So with a 4-man line like this, from the Portugal defensive end, Palhinha, through the holding midfielder role, is able to assess the situation on the fly as Sinani is coming to him. So he determines that this is the best passing option, and he does proceed to execute this pass pinpoint precisely as Bernardo Silva is on-rushing. So Bernardo catches up to the ball, and Pinto is dropping back, the rest of the defense is dropping back. Maurice is setting up for a potential onslaught on his goal. So in this instance, what basically took place is, because of the width that Bernardo Silva provided on the right flank, Portugal was able to exploit that with a very quick switch from João Palhinha, and through that there was another attempt on goal. In the 15th minute, specifically at the 14:32 mark, Luxembourg has possession of the ball with Martin Pereira dropping in between the two center backs in Carlson and Chano, and he has recently received the ball from Carlson. So the football goes from Carlson to Pereira here, and as this is taking place, Pereira takes a touch and looks towards Fernandes, who is now starting to press him pretty aggressively, and inside of midfield here, Barrero sticks out his left hand and indicates to Martin Pereira that there is a space available where he can pass the ball to Chano. So Barrero is saying basically to Pereira that, hey, potentially there's a pass option here, and that could then swing the rest of the Portuguese defense over to the right flank. Instead of going with this option, what actually takes place is Pereira takes the ball and passes it back to Maurice, and as he does this, Pereira moves out here. Carlson goes even wider to give space, and Bruno Fernandes actually makes a smart, aggressive move to come this way, with Till here coming across in this manner, with Palhinha chasing him. So as the dynamic looks in this way, with Maurice with the ball, Maurice decides to make this pass over to Till. So essentially, he thinks that by having a pass over here to Till, it's going to create some clever passing opportunity into the midfield. So as he's passing the ball here, Fernandes takes a right foot out to try to intercept it, but he's actually unsuccessful. So the ball does reach Thill, but Palhinha is a little bit better at it positionally because of the errant pass from Maurice under pressure from Fernandes. So Palhinha steals the ball and Till is left wandering, and he immediately passes the ball over to Bernardo Silva. So then, with Carlson pressing him and Silva over here in these positionings, Fernandes makes this cut indoors towards the penalty area, and all Silva really has to do is get the ball over to him. Fernandes then takes one touch with his right foot and has the ball in the net. So this was an example of the Portugal defense being highly selective of when they're doing the application of their high pressing, when they got it right in this instance with Fernandes making that smart move to pressure Maurice, and even though he wasn't successful in intercepting the ball, with Palhinha following and tracking the run of Till, he was able to catch Till off guard because Till had his back to Palhinha, who in a situation like that would be the player who holds the advantage, because as a midfielder receiving the ball with your back turned to the rest of the defense, it becomes a harder proposition to fight your way out of it without giving up the ball. And this is why the highest of midfielders in world football, like Frankie de Jong, has that half step where he can receive the ball and then turn and pivot. Busquets is a pretty good example of it. Pedri, all of the midfielders like David Silva, Andres Iniesta, Xavi, all of their advantages was that they were players who, unlike Till in this instance, were able to receive the ball with the back turned and still manage to get out of heavy pressuring, whether it's one player like Palhinha or multiple players, and they could still find that split second of timing and thinking that they needed to find the right player and retain possession for their team. If we fast forward all the way to the end of the match, it's clear that Portugal has had a very dominating performance. And when it comes down to it, Luxembourg only managed 3 shots on goal with only 2 on target, and those Rui Patricio is able to ward off pretty quickly without too much danger, whereas Portugal on the other end had 21 shots with 11 shots on target. This is the area where I think the match sort of revolved. So Portugal, while they didn't just completely dominate the possession the way Spain would with, like, let's say 60 to 70% possession, the numbers here was actually fairly balanced. And after the first 3 initial goals, so Ronaldo here scored in the 8th minute, 13th minute, and the 17th minute, there was a fair amount of time between the 17th to the 69th minute where Luxembourg did then start to ease into the game. They had a fair amount of short passing between them to build up possession, but essentially it was just a lot of passing the ball between the defensive line back and forth. And if we go back to the formational aspects, what it meant is at the earlier stages of the match, Luxembourg was actually trying to play even down 3 goals. They were trying to build out from the back, so Shano and Carlson would split out wide, Pinto and Jans would be hugging the touchline, and then Maurice would basically try to have a short pass here to Pinto. Progressively, Luxembourg would move up, but essentially when they got into these dangerous areas for Portugal, nothing was really coming to fruition, and there was a lot of individual errors in and around the Portugal 18-yard area. On the Portuguese end, what would happen quite often is Pepe and Diaz, as they built up from the back through Rui Patricio, would split out, with Cancelo and Mendes hugging their according touchline. But the formational tactic that was also displayed during the possession stages was Palhinha would step in here. And at very rare occasions, Moutinho could also do this as well. But really, given Palhinha's height and strength, he was able to pop into the back here to create a 3-man line. And at various stages, that allowed Cancelo to move into the midfield, Nuno Mendes to move up inside. So there were overloads on the forward line, and there were overloads on the defensive end as well. So at their mightiest of attacking, essentially it was this type of a forward line with Portugal, where Fernandes here was slotted in as well, with Moutinho and Cancelo providing the midfield support. Additionally, as mentioned in the first half, this area here was very, very vital to Portugal's 3 goals, because as the play was sequestered to the left wing, Luxembourg playing that zone defense where the entire team collectively goes to the flank that matches where the ball is, Portugal was able to quickly take advantage of that with some very precise long passing to Bernardo Silva, and then Bernardo Silva's individual talent and quality, along with clever movement from Fernandes, Ronaldo, Andre Silva and company, was enough to rattle Luxembourg players in the 18-yard box. Coming out of the halftime break, what became more important for Luc Holtz and Luxembourg was neutralizing the threat of Bernardo Silva on the right flank. Now, in trying to do that, Fernando Santos countered that movement and defensive structure because Luxembourg did go more of a man-to-man defense. And in that case, Bernardo Silva became more important, not so much for his width, but his ability under pressure to then have quick interchanges between him, Fernandes, and Cancelo. And then through these areas, the ball could arrive to Ronaldo and then get slowly switched over to Andre Silva. And that's where Nuno Mendes was very, very important because he started to make those overlapping runs over Jans. So he would go into here, and there would be a couple of crosses coming in for all of the taller players on Portugal to take advantage of, so Palhinha, Ronaldo, and that's how goal number 4 and number 5 came. So in the first half, it was a story of exploiting the right flank with Bernardo Silva. In the second half, it became a story of having Mendes making overlapping runs on the left flank and distributing pinpoint precise whipped crosses into the box for the target men of Portugal to take advantage. Overall, it was a match that was executed to near perfection from Portugal, and it showed the quality of a Ronaldo with his goal-scoring potential and penalty kicks, while displaying the tactical nous defensively from Bruno Fernandes, because some of his pressing high up the pitch was very, very excellent, and Ronaldo is not the best adept passer, and his work rate defensively is pretty weak. So with Fernandes having that strong work ethic up front, it did unsettle Maurice and Luxembourg's plans to play out from the back through the goalie. And in the first half, Bernardo Silva really showcased his skill on the ball in his one-on-one dribbling and how precise he can be with his one-touch passing inside the penalty area. And then on the second half, the PSG rising left back, Nuno Mendes, showed at the international level why he's one of the best young left backs to come in. As we look ahead to the qualifiers, it's very evident that Group A belongs to Serbia and Portugal, so there shouldn't be too many issues with either team qualifying for the World Cup in 2022, and this dominating performance over Luxembourg highlighted how Fernando Santos and his men are recovering from a Euro 2020 campaign over the summer where they didn't have the best of performances, but more performances in this way should set the stage for Portugal to advance deep into the World Cup when it's held next winter.